Namaste, sir. Respected Vice Chancellor, sir, and respected Registrar, sir, and other uh, dignitaries from Tamil Nadu Open University. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I'm very happy to share my little knowledge which I have to the community of humanities and social science people to promote you a little bit advance into towards technology. So before that, I would like to request you, could you please give me to share my screen, the permission to share my screen. Then I can show the slides and yeah. Yeah, make me host or something like that. Then it is fine.
Sir,
yeah,
process T, please. You can start, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to start, but I can't able to. Oh, yeah, now I can share the screen. Okay. I hope now you can see my screen as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Matrudeva Bhava, thank you all. I am very much happy to be part of this webinar series. And my main motivation is since decades, our humanities students, our social science students, non-computer science students, we have been working on different kind of areas. So mostly we are working in theoretical things. There is a big gap between these computer science people and this humanities and social science people. Yeah. So computer science people, they will see this humanities and social science people a little bit low value. So humanities and social science people, they are saying that, oh, computers, so it is mathematics and algorithms, so it is very clumsy thing or something like that. Okay, so slowly the gap is increasing between computer science and humanities and social science department. As our respected Vice Chancellor mentioned, the new education policy is bringing really a lot of wisdom in academics. I believe in that, because if you are humanities students, of course, if you want to attend a computer science course, go and attend that one. Okay, this is what actually I would like. I really appreciate the system, the new education policy system. So in today's presentation, you know that, right? If you are belongs to a small joke, huh? If you are humanities and social science student, I don't know that situation in Tamil Nadu. In Andhra Pradesh, it is very difficult to get a marry as well, because all girls, they want to marry a software engineer who has monthly 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs salaries. But no one is seeing this humanities and social science people. It is very difficult to get married. Okay, forget about jobs and all these things. Okay, so that is the scenario. The society is seeing only computers is the life. Computers won't having the life. Other things are useless or something like that. So is it possible? Is it true actually to depend on purely on technology? Okay, so what is the scope? How can we how can we use a non-computer students who don't know programming knowledge, who don't know anything about computers architecture? Is it possible to give him the scope to work on computers? So digital humanities comes into the picture to provide the facility. Forget about your studies, forget about your knowledge. If you have passion, if you have some kind of wisdom towards to learn technology, towards to use the technology in your day-to-day life, then you are masters in this. You might have heard recently, there is a new field which is called as data science, right? if you Google it, Java software developer jobs in Chennai, data scientist jobs in Chennai. Hardly more, you can see more than I think more than 10 to 20% higher jobs in data science. What is data? What is data science? Data science is nothing but your language, the language which you are using in your day-to-day life. So companies are working on data science. Okay, so if you have a basic basic sorry, if you have a basic computational skills, you are eligible to enter into a software company as a data scientist. In Germany here, I am working as a R&D consultant for 3 IT companies. Here in Germany, uh, those people who are working as a data scientist, they are not from computer science background. They are from psychology background. They are from history background. They are from linguistics background and literature background. All other disciplines people. So data science is giving such kind of a scope. If you provide this computational knowledge to the non-computer students, that's why actually universities should focus on this digital humanities. Hardly you can't see any university in India, whole India, offering a course in digital humanities. Recently, IIT Jodhpur started a master's program and PhD program in digital humanities. Okay, so there is a lot of scope for that. So in this presentation, it is not a theoretical thing. So basically, as I mentioned to our respected English department professor, I have 9 o'clock, I have an appointment with our government officials. So exactly 45 minutes, I will talk about this thing. Then let's see, mostly I am going to show you, to motivate you towards technology, I'm going to show you some tools. It is a practical demo presentation. Before that, I'm going to explain a little bit introduction to digital humanities and digital humanities, NLP, natural language processing, and data science. What is the relationship between them? And after that, if you don't know anything about computer science, how can you learn a little bit basic program, Python, and how to implement technology towards your day-to-day research? Like if you are from literature background, you are working for Tamil manuscripts, if you are working from Tamil literature, don't do anything theoretically. Do everything with automatically. There are some tools. There are many tools which you can utilize them, which can make your job very flexible. Okay. After that, I will go to show you some practical tools demo. Most I will concentrate on tools demo, and I will conclude this session. This is the whole structure of this presentation. Okay. So this is a nice quotation from Steve Jobs. Okay. Before Steve Jobs started Apple, already we have a Windows system. Already we have a Linux system. Then why, if you think Steve Jobs thinks that, hey, people are using Windows very flexible, the scientific community is using Linux, it is very flexible. Why do I need to start again operating another operating system and another laptop Apple? If you think like that, today we don't see the really Apple. Yeah, we feel very proud to have a Apple iPhone in our hand, to have a MacBook in in as a laptop or something like that. Why he think differently? He found that, hey, in Windows there are some bugs, not a bugs. In Windows there are some, they need to improve something. In Linux also, they need to do something user friendly. So there are two drawbacks in Windows as well as in Linux. So fill these two drawbacks, he started a new operating system, Apple. So exactly the similar way, in our education system, we have many departments, we have many centers. So is it possible to bridge is it possible to make all the departments into one platform? Then digital humanities is the right place. In this digital humanities, you can include all humanities departments, all social science departments, all IT departments. Even in this digital humanities, you can include your fine arts, yeah, dance, music, everything you can include in this digital humanities. Even anything comes under into digital humanity. That's why Steve Jobs is saying that don't be master in one field. Okay, you have to be always interdisciplinary kind of thing. Okay, that in this context, digital humanities comes into the picture. Since last 2010 onwards, Germany is giving, German higher education system is giving equivalent funding as cancer research and as some kind of Alzheimer research, something like that. Because it is giving a life science funding and digital humanities funding. Both are equal. So they want to promote digital humanities in Germany. In the similar way, in India, we are saying that we have a lot of culture. We have a lot of ancient civilization. We have a lot of manuscripts and blah, blah, blah. When I was a kid, our teachers used to say that, oh, we are a very scientific people. Our ancient people invented the distance between sun and earth. Fine. But are there any proof how they invented? Aryabhatta invented the distinction between sun and earth. Okay. Are there any proof? Can you prove that one? We are blank. So exactly, digital humanities is giving a scope. You don't need to do anything theoretically. Machine can read all old manuscript. Machine can analyze all old manuscript. And it will do some kind of data mining and data visualization to everyone. That is the scope of digital humanities. Yeah. So I strictly encourage interdisciplinary education. Once in ancient time, if you want to write your research paper, you have to read all the books. You have to do all these things. After that, this is our first supercomputer in 1959, which occupies a big room. Okay. And nowadays we have some kind of laptops. You can work everywhere in flexible way. Okay. Come on. So even though now we have our technology in your hand in your mobile system, can you believe that to do programming, you don't need to use computers. You can write programming within your mobile. That is also possible nowadays. So technology is reaching into human hands. But is technology is reaching these humanities and social science? Think about that. Okay, that is actually one of the things. So what exactly digital humanities is doing? If you are working for a literature, if you are working for a linguistics, if you are working for history, how you are working? You are going to libraries and you are reading all the books and you are it is a lot of human efforts needed. What digital humanities is doing is, if you are working for a Ayurvedic document, imagine that. If you are working for a history, how many people mentioned about Akbar? How many, if you want to know the Tamil culture evaluation, how do you know what is the scope of literature in to find out the Tamil language evaluation? You have to go to the library and you have to read see the catalog, get the books, and you have to read all these things. How much time it is? So even though you work for that, you will make your own data bank, you will make your own notes and everything. Who is going to use? You write your thesis. People don't know what you write in the thesis. People don't have time to read your books. How many people are reading books every day? We don't want to. We have not only in India, everywhere society is going to be lazy. They don't want. People are really forgetting reading books. Am I right or not? In this scenario, how you can transfer the knowledge from one person to one person? If I publish a book, if some people came to my home as a guest, oh, I used to give free of cost. Hey, this is my book, take it. I will take the book and I keep it in my bookshelf. I don't have time to read. This is the natural scenario, right? So how to overcome this? If you want to know the scientific, if you want to know the scientific information, if you want to know the something about the hidden science behind the books, you don't need to read all the books. Machine will dig this information and give the data summarization. For example, if you want to search how many people mentioned, how many people did vast studies on Tolkappiyam, how do you know that? You have to go to library and read all the categories, and you have to read all the books again. If you search for Tolkappiyam in machine will read all the books. Okay, machine will read all the books, and it will display some data summarization, the whole summary of this Tolkappiyam, and how many people written about this, and what is the people ideas, whether it is people are talking about Tolkappiyam positively, or are there any criticism on the Tolkappiyam. It should be displayed in one window. So that is how digital humanities comes into the picture. So this is some of the foreign project, foreign people working on Indian Vedas, foreign people working on Indian history. If you are a history student, you want how history people are working. Generally, history means you don't read history. Okay, people shouldn't read history. People should visualize the history. Visualization means they have to see the history from the desk, from the computer. If I search for Akbar, it has to display when Akbar came to the rule, and on which year he did what kind of wars, how he established his kingdom, what is the premises. Everything should be displayed in a simple video format, a 3D model format. So history should be visualized, not we don't need to read the history. Okay, so such kind of scope the digital humanities is giving. Okay, if I ask a simple question, is it Chennai is part of Tamil Nadu or Chennai is part of Andhra Pradesh? Is Tirupati is really part of Tamil Nadu? Is Tirupati is part of Andhra Pradesh? So how can you prove this one scientifically? Digital humanities is giving a scope to gather all the information from different kind of resources and do some kind of data summarization and data visualization. Previously, I mentioned one thing: people don't have time to read the books, but people have time to visualize this knowledge, right? So digital humanities is giving the scope to visualizing the wisdom and knowledge from our ancient books or manuscripts. Okay. This is one of our project, where I worked for 3 years. So see how these people, Germans, are really crazy for these things. This is a project. This is a document written by a professor in 15th century in Germany. What he did is he wrote letters throughout the world and gathered bones and skulls, all these things, into a museum. If you are going to a museum, there is an object in the museum. Below the object, you will see 3 or 4 lines describing this object. Not more than that. So is it possible to retrieve more information about this object? So digital humanities is giving a scope to do this thing. For example, you are looking for if you are working in Ayurvedic medicine, you are looking for a plant. How many documents, how many books describe this plant? What are the medical values are there in this plant? How to use this plant in for your day-to-day life? How do you know that? Only Ayurvedic doctor If you go to a doctor, he will read all these books and he will give some kind of description. No, not like that. This is a endangered German pig. Now it is no more. But in the museum, they preserve some kind of organs from this museum, nails and some other thing. Okay, so the object is located in the museum. The description of this animal, the description of this object is located in different kind of books. Many people wrote, anthropologists and animal science experts, they wrote a number of the books. So if I search for this object, if I send a search result, it should display this book written by this person in this year, in this chapter. There was a description about this animal. All this information, all this metadata into your one screen. Then how useful it is. Think about that. So we need such kind of tools in Indian languages. If you go to a museum, the object is there. Just you can keep using your electronic device, show the object or show the reference number. It will connect to the World Wide Web and display all the relevant information, how many people mentioned about this object and blah, blah, blah. In Tamil language, if you giving, I don't know Tamil language, sorry for that. If you give me a simple Tamil word, machine can derive, machine can generate the history of that word, that particular word. So how it is derived from Proto-Dravidian, in which century, what is the meaning of this word? What is the form of this word? How it turned gradually, what is the history of this particular word? So you can see all this information in one screen. For that, do you need to have really a computational skills? Do you need to have really a high-level programming skills? You don't need. Just there are some tools. You have to provide the data. That's it. If you provide the data, then machine can show all this information. Okay. This is how the book works out. Actually, the semantical web with digital humanities motivation works out. This is a book written in 17th century. Even the present modern German people, they can't understand the text because it is a classical German language. But even I can't understand this language, even though, but we developed a tool which machine can understand this language, this ancient book, and it retrieve all this scientific information and give a user-friendly interface and explain, hey, in this book, this is the scientific core information, hidden information, which was hidden. Okay. So see here, I am searching for a book word. So it is displaying how many occurrences are there, in which page, which book, which paragraph, all this metadata, and displaying like this. This is another simple experiment I did with my students. Okay, you can see here. You all people knows this Ramayana and Mahabharata, right? Is it possible to dig some information from this ancient manuscripts? So this is here you can see now we are thinking that South India and North India, right? What is the South India in ancient time? Is it up to here from the corner of Gujarat? Can you make a boundary? Can you build a wall here? It is the south, it is the north. If you see the ancient history, it is actually the boundary is like this. It crosses the here to here. The Vindhya mountains is the boundaries for South and North India. Okay, so this is a simple experiment which I did it by reading different kind of Vedas and Puranas and see the Andhra's history. Okay, how Andhras are migrated from, how the Andhras community evaluated. So if I want to do such kind of digital data visualization, do I need to go to each and every Puranas and Vedas and all these things? It takes huge time. For me to generate this map in Google, it took only 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes to see how Andhras are migrated from this place. So it was the first evidence for this Andhra term is in Rigveda. Do you know that Viswamitra cursed this his sons, and he told to his sons that go to the south part and South India, cross the Vindhya mountains and stay with these tribes, and you can continue your life, something like that. Okay, so after that, there are other epic mythology documents which are mentioning about this Andhra, how they walk from one place to another place and all these things. So this is somewhat a nice data visualization. So we have to do such kind of thing for all your epic documents. How this Tamil people evaluation, how it happened. People, if you read, if you spend years of the time, and if you write a book, people don't have interest to write a book. Rather than people have interested to visualize these things in a map. So digital humanities is giving a scope to provide such kind of stuff. This is also, I think, even in Tamil Nadu also you have some metrical poetry, like the Laghu, Guru, all these things. This is a tool where machine can write this poetry. Machine can write classical poetry. What is this poem actually? You are saying that if you are a poet, a classical poet, people said that this is some description of the flower, description of the woman, and describing something, blah, blah, blah. Actually, poem means our ancient people believe that they make this poetical system based on mathematics and music. Mathematics and music. Here you can see all these things are music conversion of these poems. Like each and every variation of the poem contain one music rhythm. Okay, so if you find some kind of manuscript which was damaged in between, how much time does it take to edit these things? You have to read all this, each and every line, and you have to do all this Laghu, Guru, a very annotation, and it takes a lot of time. If you give the same tool, same poem to machine, 1 second, 2 seconds, it will generate all this analysis. I will show you within a few minutes how useful these things are. This is also another tool developed for Bhagavatam Puranam. So machine can understand what is there in Bhagavatam. Is it only for bhakti or is it only for society? If you see any ancient Tamil poetry or something, people think that it is only for devotion, it is only for some kind of other things. But each and every classical poetry or classical epic thing, their main motivation is not some kind of devotion or something. Their main motivation is to bound the society strong. Maybe for that they are using the weapon. This is our one tool. Okay. If you find if you are going to a temple, have you visited Tirupati? Temple or any ancient place, on the wall you might have seen a lot of inscriptions. What is there in that inscription? It is science. Some science is written, some history is there. So don't cover this temple walls with gold and silver. First of all, extract this information into to public. So this is a tool which is called as an open source tool, which is called as a Gigamesh. What this tool is doing is, if you find any Tamil manuscript, if there is any Tamil stone-based inscription, okay?
Savita,
this camera, if you keep this camera before the inscription, it read this scan each and every line, even though people don't know the language. Machine can understand that language and it suggests, hey, here something is missing in the stone. There might be this word. This languages look like 15th century or maybe BC 5th century language. Machine can suggest all these things to you. If you find a palm leaves manuscript or something, so see here, there is a text, something is missing. How can you edit these things? This GigaMesh software, okay, it really read that n number of manuscripts. This is actually a machine learning thing. Machine learning means a stupid artificial object which